Here we are, Brooke Hanson. How you doing, my friend?
I am great, legend. So good to finally catch up.
Yeah, listen, out of all the podcasts I've done, I haven't really gone back to the beginning and really done a podcast with somebody that was like a real, up and comer with me, like a former teammate in a way where, you and I kind of grew up together, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And yeah, it's great to I guess follow your career now and just support your fellow teammates. And I get to reflect on what I do almost every day through obviously motivating other people and empowering them to be their best and to live out their own hopes and dreams. But yeah, to actually catch up with teammates to go, hey, like what we achieved was pretty amazing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's always nice to see your smiling face.
Appreciate it. Well, listen, if I reflect back on when you and I started, we were kind of I would say identified at a young age in the state of New South Wales as potentially, swimmers that could go on and do something. But I think if I'm being realistic, when I look back on you and I think there are a number of people that were identified. And I don't know if I ever thought I was going to be that guy that was going to kick on and have this amazing career. I don't even know if I thought that about you either. I thought we were just, reasonably talented, but I didn't think there was anything special between you and I. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that we're identified, and I think for me, I wanted it so badly. And when you're identified, it's like, oh, you've got potential of being an Olympian one day or going to Sydney 2000. And they were looking at the home games and who could potentially win a medal. And yeah, for me, I always wanted it, and at times I wanted it too much, and I tried way too hard.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about myself along the way. And, I had a great team, great mentors around me. And then I came from my background with my family. It was just huge. It was huge when it came to sport, to swimming and to surf life saving. And I was so fortunate to be in a sporting family. And I just loved it. I loved hearing about the Olympics. I loved hearing about racing, about competition. My dad was a journalist, so he would come back from every swim meet, Worlds, Pan Pacs, Com Games, Olympics, with autographs of the best in the world. So to go to bed each night and have photos of Janet Evans and Summer Sanders and Duncan Armstrong, John Seaven, like right next to my bed. And I had not just photos of great athletes, but I had autographs of these great athletes that motivated me. And I really wanted it. I wanted to be right there doing what they were doing.
Yeah, a little bit more difficult for you in that sense, right? Like a lot of people may not know your background, but I've had your dad on here before, and I talk about your dad all the time in terms of the impact that he had on swimming in Australia. As a journalist, he was the guy. Like if anyone was going to write a story, if anyone was going to break a story, if anyone was going to tell a story, it was going to be your dad. And he had this connection to the Australian swim team and the Olympic team, and for many, many years. And so I imagine you growing up, you, again, like you said, you grew up in that whole family of my dad's the guy, and my dad's the one that writes all these stories for all these athletes. So how did you decide to get into swimming and kind of follow in his footsteps?
I guess, yeah, for me, I loved hearing about the stories, and he would come back from all of those Olympic games with stories of the Olympic Village, of the Olympic Games, and then he'd bring athletes into our house, and Mum would, make him a cup of tea and some scones and some Anzac Bickies, and young me would just sit there and go, tell me about it. And for me to have that opportunity, it was a wonderful upbringing, because I was able to meet Dad named the Mean Machine. I was able to meet Mark Stockwell. I remember catching a wave at Freshwater Beach on his back and thinking, wow, like he's just won Olympic silver in the 100 freestyle, and now I'm on his back and we're catching a wave. And I'd be sort of like, tell me more about the Olympic Games, and what is it like to race like your main rivals. And yeah, I was always really interested in athletes as a young age. And then for me, I won my first race at the age of 5. It was a 15-meter freestyle race, but I swam breaststroke and still won. And I had my learn to swim teacher going, Brooke, like it was freestyle. Why did you swim breaststroke? I was like, I just found breaststroke easier. And
yeah, so you have to be born a breaststroker, don't you?
Totally. you totally have to be born a breaststroker. But
Mm.
I loved it. I used to swim butterfly with breaststroke legs.
Mm.
I just really got into swimming through school. Was of course motivated by all of my heroes, and I primary school back in 1988 to stop and watch Duncan win the 200 meters freestyle, and then to have him come to our school when he returned from the Olympic Games and tell us again the stories. I love the stories, and I just had this want every single time that I started racing to one day that I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted to be a champion. I want to wear the green and gold, represent Australia. And that was really, it came from within. It wasn't pressure from anyone else. It came from within from a pretty young age.
Now, you and I grew up on opposite sides of the bridge in Sydney. I was on the south side, you were on the north side. But we came together when we were on state teams. I remember at a young age, the two of us coming together on a state camp that went away somewhere, and we were just young and innocent and didn't really understand what it took to be an Olympic athlete at that stage. But bringing the coming together of all these young talents is super cool when you're young and part of a team like that. But I missed my chance in '96 to go to the Olympics at the age of what was I in '96? I was like 20 years old. Missed the Olympic team by 3/100ths, and at that stage thought my career was over. Did you go to the '96 Olympic trials, and how'd you do?
Yeah, so I went to '96 Atlanta Olympic trials, and I was definitely a breaststroker that was well and truly on the rise. I'd already been to a Commonwealth Games, and I'd been to Pan Pacs in Atlanta the year before. And yeah, I turned up and I was excited. I was excited to swim the 100 breaststroke, the 200 breaststroke, and I finished third in the 200 meters breaststroke final. I missed the team by 11/100ths of a second. And I turned 18 during the trials, and I was just absolutely devastated. I don't think I've ever been that flat. I cried myself to sleep for almost a week. It really affected me, and all I wanted was to be an Olympian and to come that close as you did, and to miss out by 11/100ths of a second. I really felt as a teenager that that my life as a swimmer was over, and that and I had people saying, oh, you're really good as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, but you've sort of you've plateaued, you've hit the wall. You could go another 4 years, but who knows? And you start listening to everyone else's voices, and I was like, should I go another 4 years? But I think the best thing with Australia was, if you did miss out, it wasn't like it was an Olympic B team, but there was always teams. If you just missed a team, there was something else to look forward to. So I had the opportunity to go to Mare Nostrum only a month after the Olympic trials, and I went over there and I did the 3 meets, and I swam personal best times. I had a great tour, and that really, I guess, instilled that belief of like, hey, it's there. It might not have happened at that high pressure moment. Was that nerves? Was it, not having belief in yourself that you could take on those other girls? I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew that I had to tap into that for another 4 years. So I ended up moving from Sydney to Melbourne and started training with Lee Nugent, who was the national breaststroke coach at the time. And I really had my, my goal set for Sydney 2000.
Did you ever? I went to America straight after that. Did you ever think of doing that at the time? Go for it.
Yeah, I did. I got offered. I missed that Atlanta team, and I got offered a couple of different universities in America. And there was a few. There was Alabama, there was Florida, there was Hawaii, and I had already met a fellow swimmer at the time, and I sort of I decided more that I wanted to give Australia one more chance, and being a home games, I wanted to, I guess, put all my eggs in one basket and aim to get to Sydney 2000, and decided not to go to an American college and move from Sydney to Melbourne instead. And yeah, I reflect on that, and I believe I made the right decision. One, I've got the love of my life now for in Jared, in Jared Clarke, and yeah, I obviously fell in love with him, decided to move to Melbourne, and both of us just started training as hard as we could for Sydney 2000 trials, and that was the goal for both of us to make that Sydney 2000 team.
Yeah, it's a long haul for 4 years when you miss by that much. I remember the pain and agony, but I also remember going to America and forging a career. So, what was the next 4 years in the lead up to Sydney like for you?
The next 4 years from missing Atlanta to wanting to be on that Sydney team, it was tough. I obviously moved away from home at 18. I was renting, I was working 3 part-time jobs, I was studying journalism at university. I was training full time, wasn't recovering enough, and I was just doing the best that I could. And yeah, it was hard to go to the trials. And again, I think for me, I just had that mentality: if I just aim for second, I don't believe that I'm the best breaststroker in Australia, but if I aim for second, I'll make this Olympic team. And of course, when you aim for second, well, you end up third. And to miss my home games, Sydney 2000, again by 0.78 of a second, it was devastating. And it's probably the first time that I'd really thought seriously about giving the sport away, that my Olympic dream wouldn't come true. Started listening to a lot more people that were quite toxic at the time, saying just give up, get a real job, you're never going to make it, you haven't improved your times. And and that really hurt. Like it cut really deep. And I had a lot of soul searching to do. I was like, well, if I've missed twice, how do I pick myself up? And remember my coach just saying, Brooke, the sun will rise again tomorrow. And I think when you just feel so bad, when you've fallen so short of your own expectations. And again, I was just so upset, and seeing my teammates and fellow breaststrokers achieve their own lifelong dream of calling themselves Olympian. I was just like, why isn't it my time? And I woke up the morning after I missed the team, and I watched the sunrise, and I said to myself then that I would do whatever it takes to swim another 4 years, and to give myself one last opportunity to make an Olympic team. And I knew from that point on that I couldn't do it the way that I'd already done it. I had to change things up completely and reinvent myself, my body, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I had to move forward from that day on as a completely different person. And that's something I'm so proud of.
Yeah, I noticed it. I obviously, I mean, we all noticed it. You went from being just a person that was a roundabout to someone who was, one of the best in the world, almost unbeatable. So that is a drastic change, drastic shift. And I, in a way, made that shift probably a little bit before you did. I had the experience in '96 that caused me to have kind of the same impact that 2000 had on you. So you seem to catch on to it a little bit later than I did, but I had that realization, like, I've got to do something drastic here or I'm not going to make it. And I was certainly swimming for second place. That was absolutely my mindset in '96. 2000, my mindset was completely different. It was like, I'm going to win that race, and everybody else is swimming for second. So it seems like you have this shift in 2000, and you become a completely different person after that point.
Yeah, and it took me a lot longer. Obviously, I wish that I got onto that earlier, but I'm glad that it happened. And
Yeah.
I'm glad for our head coach at the time, Don Talbot, that he got in my year, and he said, if you don't change it up, you will always be the bridesmaid. You will never, ever be the bride. And that stuck with me. And I realized that I needed to change everything. And I decided to put together a leading team, and I handpicked these people myself. And finally, I had this team around me, and that was my head coach, Mark Thompson, my strength and conditioning coach, Simon Mule. It was the sports scientist, the nutritionist, the psychologist, manager. Obviously, I had so much support around me, but I hand selected those people. And it was really, if you've seen the movie Jerry Maguire, it was really that moment of like, who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Because we're going to go 4 years. We're going to do this together, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be real, and it's going to be exciting. Who's coming with me? Because we will achieve greatness together. And by making myself accountable and the team accountable, it just really felt like it wasn't just about me. It was about taking these incredible people with me and breaking down my stroke and really working on my strengths. And my strengths had always been my legs. So I'd been told by one of the great breaststroke coaches back in the day, in Terry Gathercole, like, what is your strength, Brooke? And I said, my strength is my legs, which I had so much drive from. But we worked really, really hard on my strengths, which was my legs. And then we worked really hard on my weaknesses, which was my arms and my shoulders and I guess the way that I was working against the water. So we worked really hard on my breaststroke pull. And eventually, by consistently showing up every day, by having this incredibly positive team around me, we started slowly seeing my results improve. And Hawke, I hadn't done a PB at that stage, it was 8 years. And finally in 2001, at the world titles, I did a personal best. And that, again, just instilled this belief of like, okay, we are going places, we are on the right track. And now I just need to continue on this path and continue to have that mindset, not compare myself to any other competitors, and don't worry about what Liesel Jones is doing or Tani White, or, not be concerned about anyone else in my country. But I just need to go into this next 4 years with that mentality of, this is my time to shine. I will win. I am a winner, and I can be not just the best in my country, but the best in the world. And that was a huge shift that changed everything.
Isn't it incredible how, obviously there were physical changes that were made in terms of your training, your diet and things like that, but really it comes down to a mentality of going from feeling like, you're second best to you're number one all of a sudden, and now you're swimming to win, and people are chasing you now. Like, this mentality shift is so huge, isn't it?
It was big for me, and I always believed, hugely in the psychology of swimming, and if you could believe to be your best and to stand there. You've all done the same amount of work as those 7 other competitors next to you. But when you are there, it is totally the belief that you have in yourself. It's not doubting yourself. It's not the fear of failure. It's just having that confidence to go, hey, I've done the work. And for me, those 4 years of chipping away and just getting better and better with all of my results. My short course swimming always gave me so much confidence, because I got so strong at my starts, my turns, my finishes, that the short course swimming ended up just improving my long course swimming so much. And then I started enjoying swimming medley more as well. So by the time I've ended up at the 2004 Olympic trials, I was really just like in the best shape of my life. And I was swimming 200 medley as well as 100 200 breaststroke. And I was feeling so confident. I remember walking onto pool deck and people looking at me or noticing the shift in my mentality, my confidence, but also in my body. And people just like, wow, look how hard you've worked in the pool and in the gym to really be like a physical threat. But I knew mentally I'd worked even harder on the mental side of swimming as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. You were physically imposing. You look completely different. If you were to take a photo of how you looked 96, 2000 to 2004, completely different shape and strength. How did you come to terms with that as a woman to say, like, I need strength, I need to transform my body, I need muscles, I need power? Was that a hard shift for you to make?
I think for me, I always, had that swimmer's body. I had the broad shoulders, and thanks to my mum and I guess my mum's side of the family, I had the really strong thighs. But for me, I just wanted to embrace my body as a woman and as a swimmer. And I look back at those other photos, and of course, I look fit and I look healthy, and I've got that great swimmer's body. But I would say I was soft, and
Right.
soft, not as in, that I wasn't willing to train hard. Or you could just tell that my muscles were soft. I was probably eating way too much carbohydrate. I was probably double, triple carbing some of my meals, wasn't prioritizing protein, was eating a lot of healthy fruit and veggies, but was probably going to the wrong sort of foods for recovery. My recovery fuel was more carbs. So I had a lot of thickness and quite soft. And then to sort of transform that softness into muscle and get really lean. Like I had as low as skin folds as what you did. And, and that probably upset a lot of the girls on the team. But again, I was like, I'm not comparing myself to those girls or to yourself. And Clemmy, both of you had just such lean skin folds. And I remember that, the sports scientists like, well, like, your skin folds are as low as the boys. And I was like, well, now we're talking. Like, I want to be the fastest sprinter. I love the 50 breaststroke. Of course, it's not in the Olympics, but I love 50 short course. That was my stroke. That was my, I love that distance. And I knew that strength would also help me in my 100 and the 200. I probably reflect on that, and unfortunately the 200 medley clashed with the 100 breaststroke, so I didn't swim that at the Olympics. But to swim it at Olympic trials and to win the Australian title and stand there and go, do you know what? I'm embracing who I am. I love my body. I love the muscles, and I am finally feeling like I've arrived. And at that time, I'm 26, and I turn up at the Olympic trials. I win the 50, 100 breaststroke, 200 individual medley, and I get second in the 200 breaststroke. And so I'd gone from missing 2 Olympic teams to qualifying for 4 events at the Olympic Games. It was it's hard to describe.
So did you beat Liesel at the Olympic trials?
I beat Liesel. She was the world record holder at the time. I beat her in the Olympic trials in the 100 breaststroke, and that was the first event of the week, and that was the moment, obviously, that I'd qualified. I'd swum a personal best time, and it was just the best. Yeah, it was the best feeling. It's indescribable to look over and see my mum and dad crying, to look up to the stands and see 100 of my teammates plus my support crew wearing T-shirts and jumping up and down. I had both sets of grandparents in the stands that had supported me. And then during that time, I got myself a mentor, and I speak to so many young athletes now and tell them, get the right mentor. And I had a great mentor in the best, most famous Olympian of all time in Dawn Fraser.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
And she was my secret weapon. That's how I felt, Hawke. I was like, to have Dawn in my corner. You can't turn around to Dawn and go, oh, I'm having a tough day, or I'm not up to it today. She'd be like, come on, girl, you get in there and go for it. And to have her, I remember just, embracing her and just giving her a big hug. And I get emotional about it now, because to be able to step back and go, what do I need? After missing twice, what do I need? I need a mentor. I need a leading team. And to be able to embrace my team afterwards and say thank you. That was so special. But all of them said to me, hey, this is just the first step. We've got an Olympic Games that we're all going to now. And it was special. It was a special moment to share, especially with my family, to go home in our old van in 1996. And I remember it was just so silent. I had my 2 brothers, Troy and Kurt, my sister Jade. and I was getting really teary, and I just couldn't believe that I'd let myself down and my family down. And I just remember my brother Kurt cracking a joke, and all of us just saying, hey, why don't we just go to Macca's and, I guess not celebrate, but commiserate and just, just move on. And when I made the team, I thought about those dark moments of 96 and how my brothers, my sister were always there to put a smile on my face and tell me, hey, it's just, in the end, it's just a swimming race. But they knew how bad I wanted it. So to have them there when I made the Olympic team, it was, that was really special as well, to share that special moment with my siblings.
There's a lot of people who could probably relate to you, and I talk to people all the time in terms of having seasons where you don't swim best times. Now I don't know if we can relate to 8 years of not swimming a best time, but there's certainly seasons of it, maybe a couple of seasons. And I get this question all the time: how do you do it? You must have carried a lot of baggage with you, and you must have had to release a lot of that baggage in order to have that performance. So, in terms of your psychologists and your mentors, to be able to get you to the block and race freely, how were you able to do that?
Yeah, I think I just learned so much from my team and definitely my psychologist, that really said we can't hold on to those emotions and I guess those failures. I used to call them the failures, and let's learn from all of what you've experienced, but we have to dump it and we've got to move on. And we've got to move on with, our shoulders back and with love and kindness in our heart. And we've got to move forward with obviously so much positivity and really being the athlete you want to be. And again, not comparing yourself to the others, of you can be the best that you can be. And so for me, I felt like it was more than being an athlete or being an Olympian or being a swimmer. I just learned so much about me as a person, and that to be the athlete I wanted to be, I had to love myself. I had to be kind to myself. I had to stop, I guess, knocking myself about, you haven't improved your times for 8 years and you haven't done a personal best and you haven't made these teams, and look at all of these other breaststrokers they have. And, and then that, I guess, that devil versus angel mindset of that, the devil just constantly telling you you're not good enough, you're never going to make it, and the angel just going, yes, you will, you can achieve greatness. And to work with that team and just go, it is time to embrace you, Brooke, and you need to do this for you, because your results will come if you can move forward and think about those great results that you want in the future and not think 1 second about the past. And that's when I was able to move on in just this beautiful way of like, do you know what? Yeah, I'm doing this for me, and I'm not doing it for anyone else. I don't care what any of my competitors are doing, and I don't care how many times I've failed or that I haven't swum a personal best time for 8 years, because I will do this. And it took grit, and it took determination, and it took a hell of a lot of self-belief and self-talk, but I was willing to do it every single day. And as soon as a negative thought would come into play, I'd be like, nah, just smash it down straight away with a positive thought. And that was a total game changer for me. It's something now that I've taken into life beyond the Olympics, and put that into my own business, run my own business for 20 years and get knocked down every day, but get back up again and then continue to do it my way.
Well, tell us about 2004, because you go to the Olympics, and not only it's your first experience there, having watched a couple of them at home, but you had mad success in Athens. Tell us about your experience there.
To just be called an Olympian, I was so proud of that moment, and to finally have that dream come true of wearing the green and gold, representing Australia, and being an Olympian. Like, that was enough. But all I said to myself is, I want to come back. I want to come back with a medal. And I did not care what it was. I just wanted a medal to be able to bring home and show off to my family and to my friends. And that's all the goal. That's the goal that I had. It was never about winning or swimming a best or anything like that. It was just like, I just want to be on the podium. So to to race in Athens. I remember first race 100 breaststroke, and to be announced as an Olympic finalist, I was able to just look down lane 6 and take a deep breath, close my eyes, and then just go, hey, remember that young girl? Remember that young girl that loved swimming, that loved breaststroke, that, you know, looked at Manly pool on a summer's day. That's exactly what the Athens pool looked like. It was just, it was a beautiful pool to swim in. And I remember just going, this is your time to shine. And I dived in for that final, and I just felt incredible. And I had key words when I was swimming breaststroke in 2004. So mine was long, strong, forward. And I got through that first 50, and I remember streamlining next to the girls, and I saw Tara Kirk, I saw Amanda Beard, Liesel Jones, and I was thinking, I'm about fourth here. And my mindset was, you've done so many back end 50s. It is time to absolutely unleash and just go for it. You are not leaving anything in this pool. And with 25 meters to go, I really just, I started to hit the lead, and I felt absolutely incredible. And with 10 meters left, I remember those muscles that I'd worked so hard on filling up with lactic acid. And I remember my coach's words was just get your fingernails on the wall. And the wall at that stage with 10 meters to go just felt like it was so far away. And I could feel my whole body just tightening up. And I just had to get to the wall. And I remember touching the wall and looking at the scoreboard, and nothing had happened. It was still sort of our names. There was some times, but there was no results. And I remember thinking, if you get first, second, or third in an Olympic Games, like, you're going to claim that no matter what. It's going to be absolutely stoked because you're on the podium. And I remember looking over at my coach, and he was sort of like going like this. And I was like, what? Like, peace? What is he on about? And I look up, and I remember looking at my lane, and it's like lane 6. I was like, oh, you got 6, well done. Like, not on the podium, but, you've tried your hardest. And I'm looking at the time, and I was like, oh, it looks like 107.1. It looks like I've swum a PB in the final. And the announcement was that there's ladies been a disqualification, stay in your lane. And again, it's just like, what, this Olympic final? Like, have I been disqualified? What's going on? And sort of just that, those few seconds of like, we didn't know what was happening. And then the results came up, and I remember them just going through, and they had disqualified the Chinese swimmer from lane 8, and then they put up first, second, and third. And I remember looking up my name up in lights, didn't see who was first, didn't see who was third. All I could see was silver, Brooke Hanson, Australia. And that was it. It was like, I've dreamt about this for 22 years. I've not improved my times for 8 years, and now I'm an Olympic medalist. And I went from lane 6 to lane 7. I'm still looking at my coach, Mark Thompson. He's doing this. I'm like, yeah, I did get second. Wow. And I got out, and all of that lactic acid left my body, and I did the biggest jump of my life. And I gave a hug to Xian Lu from China, who had won the Olympic final from lane 1. I'd got silver from lane 6. And the favourite, my teammate, Aussie, Liesel Jones, the current world record holder, she got third from lane 4. And we'd beaten the Americans. I had finally achieved my lifelong dream of being an Olympic medalist, and had to walk over and speak to Kieran Perkins, who was doing the post-race interviews. And I remember thinking, I've got to get it together, because Kieran was on my first team. He broke world records in 1994 at the Commonwealth Games in Canada, in Victoria. And I remember thinking, oh, it's Kieran, I've got to get it together. And to walk over and see him, and he was just so proud. He's like, Brooke, you finally did it. You finally did it. And that was, Hawke, that was just, I get teary thinking about it, because only you know as a swimmer the hard work that goes in the pool, in the gym, the 4 a.m. starts, and the 22 years that it took to never give up. It was just a beautiful, beautiful moment in time where I didn't think how I'd lost the gold medal or that I'd just beaten my teammate Liesel Jones by 1/100th of a second. I just knew that I'd done that for me, and that for the rest of my life I could call myself an Olympic silver medalist, and I was just so proud.
Wow. What a story. Incredible. You give me chills there as you were talking. I was like reliving some of that, but and just the experience, knowing what I was in the final in Athens myself, and so knowing what that felt like to walk out and then compete, and then it was a beautiful experience. One of my athletes that I coached recently, Bruno Fratis, had a very similar experience. Went to 2012, finished 4th, went to 16, finished 6th, and then finally in his 3rd Olympics in Tokyo, ended up getting the bronze medal, and had a very similar experience where to him that was like the gold medal. You know, it was the greatest thing that ever happened. And his wife was there with him as a coach, and they have this embrace on the podium, and they have a kiss, and it goes viral, and it was just this incredible thing. And a lot of, there was some criticism of like, well, you got bronze, you shouldn't celebrate that hard, but you know what it's like when you put that much work into it, you have that much failure, then all of a sudden it comes together. That's like winning. And I remember it was kind of a similar experience with you, right? Like you have this incredible outpouring of emotion, and then Liesel, who was kind of the favorite, like you said, and then got beaten for bronze, had a totally different reaction, and there was some negativity that came with that too, wasn't there?
Yeah, you know, that was tough, but again, it was like just be you, like, and it's, you know, it's everywhere at the moment of like, you do you. But at the time, I had Dawn and I had, you know, my family, and everyone's like, Brooke, you do you. So what everyone saw was me being my authentic self. You couldn't wipe the smile off my face because I was just so thrilled to stand on the Olympic podium, to have my coach, my dad, my brother, Kurt was working for Speedo at the time, to see mum up in the stands, like cheering and wearing a green and gold Aussie wig and doing the big coo-wee, and she was just so proud of me. But for me to stand on that Olympic podium, I could not stop smiling. And Bruce McAvaney, one of the famous commentators in Australia, he turned around to Don Talbot, who was also commentating that race, and said, you can't take the smile off Brooke's face. This is a golden reward for never giving up. And I took that forward with me. And it, you know, nothing against Liesel, like she was silver medalist in Sydney, and of course her heart was solely set on winning gold, and to finish with bronze when you wanted gold, like, of course she was devastated. But for me, bronze, silver, gold, I was always going to react that same way, and to have that moment and to be, again, just my true authentic self. I was more proud of that, of, you know, what you see is what you get. And I ended up calling my book When Silver is Gold, because that was a golden reward for me for those 22 years. Yeah.
Now, did they end up giving you the spot, the A spot on the medley relay?
No. So, that was tough. And I remember,
what was that all about?
Yeah, I remember being in the press conference. They're like, oh, you've just beaten your teammate in the 100 final, and you'll get the A spot for the relay final now. And I had, like, to be honest, totally honest, I hadn't even thought about it. I was just on this mega high of like, I'm an Olympic silver medalist. And yeah, the medley relay coach was Liesel's coach in Kenwood, and they just decided that Liesel was the current world record holder, and that I'd swim the heats. They'd see how I go, and I was like, well, that really means that I'll swim the heats.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate. And as you know, if you swim a relay heat, you still get an Olympic gold medal. And it took me a long time to embrace that Olympic gold medal like it's my own, because I believe that by being the first Australian home, and I guess I came from that era of Don Talbot saying, if you're the first Aussie home as a breaststroker, freestyler, butterfly backstroker, you get that A spot in the medley relay, which is the final day of competition. And unfortunately, that didn't happen for me. It was the first time in swimming Australia history that a breaststroker who won, or who was the first Aussie home, had been delegated to the heats.
Yeah.
And not that I'd never live in the past, but, you know, people had asked me, oh, what if you'd won the Olympic gold? Was Australia still going to put you in the heats? And I'm like, well, yeah, probably, because Liesel was that world record holder from the year before. So that was really tough. There was one moment, I swam the heats. I finished 8th in the final of the 200 breaststroke. I didn't swim the 200 medley because it clashed with the 100 breaststroke. I'd reached my goal of being on the Olympic podium and getting silver in 100. But there was this one moment right before the final session of our Olympic swimming program. And I was in the gym with two girls, one from Sweden and another girl from the USA. And they both asked me, they go, what are you doing in the gym? Like, shouldn't you be out there getting ready for the 4x1 medley relay final? And I said, no, I'm not swimming the final. And they're like, what do you mean? You got second? You know, you were the first Aussie home. I said, no, like, they've decided to go with Liesel. And, you know, I really hope the girls win tonight. It's going to be tough against the USA, but, you know, I'll be in the stands cheering everyone on, as you know, as a leader on that team and part of the leadership team with the Aussie swim team. I wanted to make sure that I was there and that there was no hard feelings. And I did the hardest gym session that I had ever done in my life. And these girls, the Swedish girl and the American, they were just like, we have never ever seen a swimmer go as hard as you did for that hour. And I realized that was a little bit of me just having to just take it out on the weights. But I did the session. I had a light swim afterwards, and then I was the first person up in the stands to cheer everyone on that night, including, I love seeing Hawke win that 1500 freestyle on, you know, half a lung, and then for the girls to get up and win that medley relay. It was tough. It was hard to watch, because I wanted that moment with my own teammates to stand on the podium to sing the national anthem. But I tell you what, I got one great message from my husband. And unfortunately, Jared, as a freestyle, didn't make it to Sydney, and he didn't make it to Athens, and never made it to an Olympic Games. But he sent me a text message that put a smile on my face. He's like, congratulations, you're an Olympic gold medalist, and you didn't even have to get wet. And that was it. That sort of got me out of that, I guess, negative mindset, Hawke, to say, hey, what about me? And why is it my time? And why can't I stand there with the girls? And yeah, forever moving forward, I'm announced everywhere I go as an Olympic gold and Olympic silver medalist. And, you know, majority of the room of thousands of people I'm speaking to, that, you know, they don't know what went on with the relay. Like, I know what went on, but I know that was a huge driver for me to make sure that moving forward that I would definitely be on a relay team, on an Australian medley relay team with the girls. And then what ends up happening a couple of months later in Indianapolis is just continues to be just part of sporting history for the women's team and for me, where I end up personally having the best meet of my whole career.
Yeah, not only did you have the best meet of your career, one of the best in history. Didn't you end up winning 6 gold there?
Yeah, 6
world
gold.
champs?
Yeah, 6 gold world short course, Indianapolis in the US. And what a pool. Like, they put that pool inside that basketball stadium, and it took them months to put that together. But when we turned up, it was just fantastic to swim in front of 10,000 screaming Americans every single night, and to have the best athletes there. There was a few Olympians that had decided not to do it. But for me, the girls that I'd raced in the American team and the Chinese girls as well. The Germans, the Swedes, the ones I'd raced in the Olympic final had turned up for that world short course. And I absolutely love short course racing. And for me, that whole week was just probably the most empowering week that I've ever had. I did have the world's media saying, what is the difference? Are you on, performance enhancing drugs? You're so strong. Like, how have you gotten this strong? And I remember just saying, I've worked on my strengths. I've worked so hard on my stroke. I've worked hard in the gym, but most of all, I've worked on my mindset. And I believe that I'm meant to be the best swimmer in the world, and to beat my teammate Jade Edmonston in the 50 breaststroke on night one. I beat Jade by 1/100th of a second. Wow. So as we know, like, that's the closest you get to a draw. And I do a lot of work with Jade now. She works for Queensland Swimming. But I remember saying to her, if you'd beat me in that first race, I was like, oh, that my 6 gold wouldn't sound as good. It wouldn't sound as good of 5 gold and a silver. But yeah, to have that moment with Jade on the podium, and it was special. Indianapolis was special. They got a live choir to actually sing the national anthem every single night, and to have an American choir, local choir, sing an Australian anthem. Like, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it. It was special, and to get there and swim well, like not just win gold, but break Commonwealth records and break Australian records, and break world short course, like world records with the girls in the medley relay. And it was special. Like, it was a special week individually to win 5 gold. So I've gone the 50, 100 turn breaststroke, the 100 turn medley. That was special. But to finally have my moment with my girlfriends on the world short course podium, singing the national anthem and beating the Americans on home soil, that was really special. And we'd been through a lot. Even the marshalling era, I remember a couple of American girls were probably trash talking Jess Shipper a little bit and trying to get in her head. And I remember just saying to Jess at the time, Jess, like, I wasn't a mum at the time, but I remember saying, I felt like I was my mum, saying, Jess, we don't lower ourselves to their level. Like, let's not get involved. Like, let's focus on what we need to do. And had our little huddle. And they just kept saying to Jess, like, we've got Jenny Thompson. She's the most decorated Olympian all the time. She's going to take you down, Jess. And there's, little Jess, only 18, long blonde hair, Brisbane girl, had just been at her first Olympics, and she just didn't know what to expect. And the American girls are like, come on, we're gonna beat the Aussies. And poor little Jess is like, oh, Brooke. And I'm like, we'll be right. Let's go. Let's like get in there. And all we can do is just our personal best. And, if we're behind these girls on paper, but we've beaten them at the Olympics, and we can beat them again. So to lead that team and to be announced as captain of that team, I knew that as a leader, I had to really support my girlfriends during that moment. And we walked onto pool deck, and we heard those screaming Americans go, USA, USA. And I was just saying to the girls, AUS. I was like, we've got this, girls, we can do this. And Sophie Eddington led us off in the backstroke, and I've gone in second in the breaststroke. And I remember just like streamlining through, and I had Tarako, I had the American on one side, German on the other side. I was just remember, like, you're going down, girls. Like, I've got to get Jess a lead, knowing that Jess was up against Jenny Thompson. And Jenny was always like just a hero of mine. I used to look up to her so much, but I knew that I had to give Jess a lead. And I gave Jess a lead, did a fantastic, fastest time that I'd ever swum in a relay, and she went up against Jenny Thompson, and it was tough. It was tough for Jess, but she did so well, and they swam stroke for stroke the whole way. And then for us to have an anchor in Libby Trickett, you
Mm.
know you're in good hands.
Yeah.
So when Libby dived in against Karen Lynn Joyce, I just remember I've never screamed so loud in my life. And they swam stroke for stroke the whole way. And Libby had, to that point, that was the fastest split from a woman ever. And that was the difference. And we got up on that day in sporting history. 10,000 screaming Americans sat down in silence, and us Aussie girls had become the Olympic champions and the world short course champions in that 1 year. And that's a moment I just pinched myself. I'm just like, wow, like this is it. This is that moment where if you're ever having a tough day 20 years on, you just reflect on those moments and go, hey, do you know what? I've got this. And might, ring one of the girls or catch up and just go, remember that time, remember that year that we just had so many great performances, but we had really strong relays. And yeah, this year, of course, it's 2024. So
yeah, very similar this year.
Yeah, celebrating 20 years. So the girls and I will definitely get together as we always do, and we'll have a couple of bottles of champagne and we'll celebrate with our significant others. And yeah, it'll definitely be a reunion to remember, that's for sure.
It'll be cool too, because very similar, the way that the women's team's going in, and I mean they're strong on paper, and the US are going to be super strong. The Australian trials are coming up in a couple of weeks, then you have the US straight after that, and then it's off to Paris and competing. So there's so much to learn just from listening to you, and I hope some of these Australian women are going to listen to this and kind of take from it in terms of their belief and their confidence, and draw from you in terms of your stories. Yeah, very cool. I mean, I remember that whole period that you went through was just like, oh my God, Brooke has just become a different animal. It's just you were just killing and shredding, and it's interesting. Like, how do you, like, you don't want to take away from that experience you had because it made you who you were, but you certainly wouldn't want everybody to try and go through that and have that, so how do you relate it so that maybe the Brooke that you became could manifest earlier than you did, and so that you could share that with other people? Like, what would you say to people that have talent, that have ability, that maybe aren't clicking and doing the things that you really figured out before you went through those hardships? Do you have to go through those hardships, or can you get there earlier, you think?
I believe that, yeah, the hardships, the obstacles, the hurdles definitely help you in that growth to realize what you truly want, what you value, and allow you to find the best out of yourself. But for me now, I'm so fortunate to be able to share my story with athletes, with swimmers, with corporate CEOs, all the way down to cleaners, and even to those that will go to this year's Olympic trials. And I guess the biggest key takeaways that I give them is, again, being the best that you can be. And there's too much judgment on yourself sometimes, and the judgment of others, and the comparing yourself to what everyone else is doing, or not believing that you're good enough. And for our Aussie swimmers, the freestylers in particular, so many young swimmers that have an opportunity to make this Olympic team as a relay swimmer, and to not go in there thinking about some of those freestylers that are looking at going to their third, to their fourth, to their fifth Olympics. And I'm trying to get them now just thinking more about that youthful energy and how they can use that at the Olympic trials. And sometimes that's even better than the pressure that those other older athletes have on, trying to make a third or fourth or fifth Olympics, when there's a lot of young ones that are trying to make their first. But the ones that I've been speaking to are still really concerned about what all of those other girls are doing, what they're doing for training, how they're going to taper. And again, I'm like, no, you cannot waste your energy worrying about what everyone else is doing. And you have to stop judging yourself and comparing yourself to others, or that you haven't swum as fast as this girl. You have to stand there and be the best that you can possibly be. And I speak a lot about that pressure but that pressure is a privilege. And if you can take that pressure every day to be your best and see it as a privilege, put your shoulders back, know your race plan, know that you've got the belief in you, that you've done the hard work. And I tell the girls, you've all done the exact same hard work, but you have to believe in the work that you've done, and then execute that race plan with your coaches. And sprint freestyle, you want to make sure that you're doing absolutely every part of that 100 freestyle to perfection. But you want to make sure that that pressure you're putting on yourself every day is a privilege. So for me, it took me a while to eventually get there. I would have loved to get there, 4 years earlier, of course, and go to Sydney 2000. But who would have known? Like, I may have just gone to Sydney and called myself an Olympian, and then, moved on and, continued on, with my journalism career and TV and everything else that I've gone into. But for now, I just tell those girls, you need to get there. You need to get to the Olympic trials, and you've got one thing to focus on, and that's yourself swimming as fast as you possibly can in your chosen events.
Yeah, great message. That's the best message they can hear, because it's so true. It comes down to that, and you're only going to have regrets if you don't take it that way. If you don't go into it and listen to exactly what you said and execute the way that you just presented it, then you will end up having regrets, and you'll have that pain, and then you'll have to figure out, okay, I got 4 years to wait for that again. But if you allow yourself into that space, then magic happens there, and that's where you can get your hand on the wall and get yourself on that team. And then, those women, wow, like if you can get in that top 6 and maybe even that top 4, then that I'm not gonna say it's a guarantee gold medal, but listen, it's about as good as it can get. Those women are so good right now. The Aussie women, it's awesome to see. So it's gonna be fun. But Brooke, we're 20 years on, but it still looks like you got it. Like, look at those guns, they're still there.
I still love working out, Hawke. I just love it. It makes me a better me. Makes me a better mum, a better wife, a better, I guess, a better friend, a better at my work, and I just love it. So I would still say I love swimming breaststroke. I swim a lot more freestyle than breaststroke these days, and still compete for my local surf club. Do some masters events with them. I think I do enjoy the ocean swimming, just because you do have that opportunity to catch a wave at the end. And for the Legends Relay, it's coming up again in Australia at the Olympic trials. So I've got the email to say, hey, who's putting their hands up to do a 50 meters freestyle? And they're going to have the Olympians come out of the woodwork, of course, and compete in Brisbane. I think about the third night of the Olympic trials. And that's always fun. Like, I still love swimming. I love lifting weights. I'm a really active mom. I'm involved with all of the kids' sports. And I just find being fit and being healthy just makes me feel like a better me. And that's so important for my mental health, my well-being. And I just love feeling fit and healthy. And it's a huge, I guess it's a huge commodity to have. I'm like, if I don't have my health, I don't have my family. If I don't have my family, I don't have my happiness. So it's really that special circle of life where I need to always put health and fitness first. And more recently, Hawke, I found out I was a celiac. So, that's the whole new journey that I'm going on, gluten-free living, and just finding out just new ways that are making me feel really good. So, always looking at ways that I can better myself and be the best I can be every day. And I've got, obviously got my swimming career to thank for that. And I'm just so thankful that everything that I learned, the highs, the lows, and everything in between with the goal setting and the time management. And so many people ask me now, how do you fit all of this in? I was like, this is actually, running my own business and speaking and hosting events and, working on television shows. I was like, I love all of this, but this is actually quite easy in comparison to, swimming at an Olympic trials whilst having 3 part-time jobs and, full-time at university. So,
knowing your family background and your dad doesn't surprise me, the way that you were raised either. Your dad's very similar, your mom's very similar. So that part of it doesn't surprise me. You know, the part that I'm really proud of is that, you know, I remember back to who we were as young kids and when we started, and look where we are now and the impact that we've had. And it's especially you know, your story is so inspirational. You've got a book out there, people can read it, get more of your story, get more of your journey, and you're out there doing public speaking and inspiring the next generation. But just again, like thinking back to young Brooke to where you are today, and the journey that you took to get there is just incredible. I'm really proud of you. I'm glad to know you and your family. I love your brother. He's on our show. Everyone knows that. We do live shows together, and he's awesome as well. So yeah, great family, good people, and massive impact on the sport of swimming. So
thanks so much, Hawke. Yeah, like so good
yeah,
to still be involved and to continue to make a difference. As you always know, I live every single day like it's my last. So I'll have a smile on my face, and I do it. I do it for so many reasons. Whether whether that's in memory of my son who sadly passed away, or the positivity that I have from my family, and for my brothers like Kurt and Troy and my sister Jade. We're definitely a household full of positive people, and I think that's it goes a long way. So thanks so much. It's been so great catching up.
Yeah, good stuff. I love it. Hope to catch up soon in person. Okay.
Definitely in person next time.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, Brooke. Take care. Hey.
Peace out.
Bye.